What's going on? You guys good? All right, so last Friday I spoke to loan officers in Dallas. I like that. That's my reaction too, yeah. And then I went to Cancun and ran a mastermind, $35,000 per person, and I spoke to all those people. You think people that pay you $35,000 are really smart and got it together? Some of the most dysfunctional people you'll ever meet in your life. So I spoke to them about podcasting, and now, is it Saturday today? I don't even know what day it is. I'm speaking to martial artists, owners trying to grow their business. 3 topics in 7 days. We'll see how it goes. Here's the good news. Loan officers were first. They did pretty good. Driven members of my mastermind, they did pretty good. I'm wondering if this will be the best audience. Nice. So they asked me to prepare a presentation for you with slides and all that, and I said, materials for pussies. We're going to do this right off the top of the head. This might be the best presentation you've seen. This might be the worst presentation you've seen, or it might be somewhere in the middle. I mean, that covers you, so I'm safe either way. So this is my slides. It's my Instagram. I just started Instagram. I have no idea what I'm doing on Instagram. Please follow me. If you like me, follow me. If you hate me, follow me and leave hate comments, because either way, I guess the algorithm makes it better. I don't know. So Jason Flavin at Instagram, if you like anything I do, that would make me very happy. My kids don't think I'm shit when it comes to business. Doesn't matter who I've coached, what I've sold. They look at the numbers and they say, well, so-and-so has 10 million followers, Dad, and you have 9,000. They just think I'm the biggest loser in the world. So help me out. I will do my best to help you out here today. And I was really sitting here thinking, I was discussing and talking about what we could have a conversation about today. What could I do to help you out the most and have the biggest impact upon you? And I had a couple different things that I was going to say, talk to a couple different people out there, a couple different people backstage, and I think I have the topic. And in order to set up the topic, I'd like to share with you a story. I took one vacation in my whole entire childhood. The only vacation I took as a child when I was about 10, and my dad says, hey, we're going to go on vacation. Because we're going to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma for vacation. I mean, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Wow, you guys from Tulsa? Oh, hell yeah. See, God keeps doing this to me. He keeps setting it up. He says, I'm opening the door to you, and then it's up to me. And half the time I fuck it up, and other half the time I stumble through it and I win, right? So I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, this is the vacation, mind you. We're wrestling at the national championships for, anybody that's not in high school. That was my vacation. Freestyle and Greco-Roman, 6 days of getting my ass kicked in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm 10 years old, and I'm cutting weight to make weight as a 10-year-old. This is my vacation. So I get down there, make the weigh-ins for Greco, finish Greco. I got to now weigh in to wrestle the freestyles next. I am 1/10 of a pound overweight naked. And I'm exhausted. And I have a half an hour left to make weight. And I don't see how I can do it. And my dad tells me, because my dad was a wrestling coach, my dad says, I don't know how this works. I don't know why this works. But if you stand on your head for about a minute, you will temporarily lose about 1/10 of a pound. It's scientifically not accurate, but I said, whatever, let's try it. I'm too tired to put my clothes back on. 10-year-old boy in a corner in a strange land, standing on his head naked, dad holding him by his ankles, right? Get on the scale, and wouldn't you know it, made weight by the skin of my teeth. And what's the point of that story? Well, the point of that story is this. Many years later, when I started my entrepreneurial career, I started in 2007. On the internet in 2007. So I am like your great-grandfather when it comes to digital marketing. I started when, if you wanted to be on Facebook, you actually had to go to an Ivy League school, and they called it the Facebook. They didn't call it Facebook or Meta or whatever they're going to call it next year, right? So when I started and business was tough and things were challenging, I would say, well, when I was 10, I could do that. And that was way harder than what I do now. What I did at 10 for me was harder than making $10 million. when you're in a difficult situation in business or in life, and when you're in a difficult situation when you're trying to hit your KPIs, your goals, when you're trying to grow your martial arts school, whatever you're trying to do, it's really useful to have this material. When was the time I did something more difficult than this and succeeded? And so therefore, this doesn't become as difficult, okay? This is the game changer of all game changers, at least for me. So you probably don't know who I am because I'm not that big a deal, even though in my mind I am. But Alex Hormozi is one of the most popular influencers right now in the business space. He paid me a full days of consulting last year to help him with his book launch. And that book launch sold like the record-breaking 250,000 books in like 40 minutes. Yeah. He called me up because in his book, $100 Million Secrets, which is the best-selling book on the topic, I'm the most quoted person in that book. And yeah, thank you. That's not a lot for my business. I appreciate it because he's the first one to actually give me credit. What a novel concept, right? There's some other people that you would know. So you know me through them. So you got the Xerox copy of the Mona Lisa. You didn't get the Mona Lisa. All right? Yeah. So Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins, they did their big mastermind.com launch this year, and they paid me 2 days of consulting to help them structure that offer and implement that offer. That reached multiple millions of people. And so I'm your guru's favorite guru, if you will. This was the game changer that really helped me in my career. And I'll give you one more quick story, and then we're going to get down to the brass tacks, right? So quick story, we're in Miami. We went to this Grant Cardone thing. Grant Cardone brought about 40 of us in, and he had this new idea of taking over the world, and he wanted our help, and he employed us to do so, or tried to at least. He put us on this big, massive yacht, biggest yacht I've ever seen in my life. Then he put us on a bus. We're going back to the bus. We're in Miami, and a guy who I helped start during COVID, this guy called me up one day, cold called me, and he says, Jason, I got 40,000 lawyers registered for an online event, and I don't know what to do. So I did my research. Turns out you're this guy who does webinars. You're the best in the world at it on webinars. Will you talk to me? I talked to him for 2.5 hours on the phone to help him with it. It launched a business that last I checked, was valued at $80 million on an exit. Somebody wanted to buy it from him, and he said no 2 years later, right? And one of the key pieces of advice I gave him that helped him the most is he says, Jason, you do this thing on your webinars and I don't know how you do it, but how do you do it? Now, for those of you who don't know, who knows what a webinar is? Okay. Wow. I was like, I'm 12 years ahead of the curve because nobody used to know what they were. So this is good. Quick question. Anybody ever done a webinar? Okay. Wow. Good for you. Good for you. My guess would be that you are probably more successful than the ones that didn't raise their hands. Coincidence? I don't know. But this guy, his name was Bill, he says to me, Jason, how do you do these webinars? Because a webinar, for those of you who don't know, is you essentially give education in a way that helps people make better purchasing decisions with your products. So if somebody knows what you do and understands your value better, guess what they do? They buy from you. The less they understand your value, the less they buy from you. The more they understand your value, the more they buy from you. Does that make sense? Okay? So most of you who have a problem selling right now, it's not that you don't have the value. You probably do. They just don't know it because you don't show the value to them in a way that can help them the most. So Bill says to me, he says, Jason, you get on these webinars, you do your normal webinar structure. For most of the time, it's 60 minutes of education and then 30 minutes of selling. So you show them the value of it in advance by educating them. Then you transition into a sales process. You say, here's what I got. Here's what you have to invest in order to get it. Here are the bonuses you get when you invest. Here's the risk you incur. And here's how we've minimized this risk. And here's why you have to invest sooner rather than later. Here's the bonus you get when you do invest quickly. And here's the penalty you pay when you don't. That's the super short Cliff Notes version of that. And he says, Jason, then you do the thing that you do better than anybody else. And he goes, you stay on that webinar for hours. So my average webinar when I'm selling product is 4.5 hours long. How do you stay on that long and just keep going? Because here's what I do for a majority of that webinar. I stop people from making bad decisions. And the bad decision is not investing in something that makes sense for them to invest in. I show everything I have. I'm like, you should buy it. You know you should buy it. You don't buy it yet. What's stopping you from buying it? Let's have a conversation about it. So for hours, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, sometimes 8 hours on these webinars I'll go helping people make the decision that's right for them. And Bill says, Jason, how do you do that? And I said, this is how I do this, Bill. I said, I have this image in my mind. And this image in my mind is, here's my ideal prospect. and they're in the water, in the ocean, and they're drowning. Their head's about to go underwater. They're about to die. And I throw them a life raft to save their life, and they kick it away. I do anything and everything I can to stop them from drowning, because if I don't, they will die. But if I can save their life, then I will feel good and they will live. That's the attitude that I have when it comes to serving my audience. That's the belief that I see in my mind when I'm selling what I sell. When I'm selling what I sell to who I'm selling it to, and I know it's in their best interest to buy, it just upsets me so much that they won't do the thing that I know will help them the most. And so I don't give up on the audience. They say, hey, listen, I'll buy from you simply because there's no one else left to buy from. I will trust you because you didn't just tell me you cared, you showed me you cared. Here's the difference between marketing that works and doesn't work. Marketing that doesn't work, and unfortunately most of you are doing this kind of marketing, is you're telling people stuff. That doesn't work. Marketing that does work, you're showing people stuff. That's the key difference between the two. So don't just tell, you got to tell, but also show. So who here really truly cares about the audience that they serve? Yeah? Okay, good. So I asked Adam, I said, Adam, of everything I could teach and talk about and address here today, what do you think would have the most impact? And he says, teach them sell stuff. Help them with selling, specifically with objections and with closes. And I said, good, I got it, because that's the kind of thing that I do the most. And I can do this in any environment. I can do this in any situation. I can do this off the top of my head. You could give me the biggest objections that you face with your audience, and if I'm really good at it, I could give you the answer of exactly how to handle it live right in front of you. Would you like to do some of that here today? Okay, cool. We'll do some of that here in a second. I will play that game with you. Hopefully I'll do okay, but if not, I'm willing to at least attempt it. But here's where I think it gets even more exciting to me, because most of you, I'm assuming, tell me if I'm right or not, your impact is pretty much in a local environment. Like, you don't have a chain of things spread across all the country, and you don't have schools in places you never visit. Pretty much your school is in your same local area. Is that you? Okay, yes. So for better or worse, you impact the community you live in. There's no bigger stakes to me than that. I sell people all over the world. Last I checked, I have customers in 153 countries. Half of them I can't spell, and the other half I can't pronounce. I have touched people's lives that I will never meet, and that's really cool, but that's abstract. That's marketing at the highest level. I went and spoke at Sao Paulo, Brazil earlier this year. I had a guy come up to me, and my kids went with me because they don't think I do anything. They think I look at a computer and make no money or anything like that, right? Like, I had to explain it to him. So I took him down to Sao Paulo, and they saw me speak down there. And the guy came up to me and says, Jason, I learned how to speak English just so I could talk to you. And I looked at the kids and I said, see? See? So that's kind of impact I have to live off of. But you impact your community at a local level. So I'm assuming the following experience has happened to you at some point in time. And that experience is this. A parent came up to you and said, my child wasn't doing so well. They could have went either way. They were at risk. I joined your school. You set them straight. You gave them discipline. You gave them support. You gave them community, and now they are thriving. You have changed my child's life. If that's happened to you, say me. Okay, yes, good. That's the actual value you have. Now, how does that show up in your marketing? It doesn't. Thank you for being honest, Jim. Most of you, it doesn't show up in your marketing. It doesn't show up enough in my own marketing. It's hard to do this for yourself. It's hard to cut your own hair. I tried it during COVID. It didn't go very well, right? It's hard you take it for granted almost in a sense. For me, it's like, well, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I'm here for. But the audience needs to see that, right? They need to see that. Like, what are their alternatives? What are other things that their kids could enroll in? Yeah, that kind of stuff, right? Tell me in your heart of hearts, because I believe this to be true, because wrestling was a martial art for me. There was nothing that impacted my life as a child and disciplined me more and set me up more for success than wrestling. I was in baseball. I didn't do it. I was in football. I didn't do it. Maybe it does it to some degree, but to the deepest degree, do you think these other alternatives are better? No. You probably have the best bet. Really, truly. And that bet pays off in a very tangible way because it affects the community that you live in a very positive way, right? We could discuss politics all day long on Twitter and talk about what should be done. That shit don't matter, okay? That's telling. Or we could show what we want to be done by impacting the people that we can impact. Are you cool with that? Okay, so how do we do that? Here's how we do that. When you have somebody that comes in that should enroll in your school and doesn't, that is the greatest tragedy that could ever exist in your business. But here's the biggest reason, in my opinion, because you paid all that money to get them this close to the finish line. Because you're marketing. You have to get the lead into the door if you're going to use the terminology of marketing. You're going to have to get them to know who you are. You're going to have to get them to raise their hand and say, I'm interested. Not closing a sale is like driving the ball to the 1-yard line in football and then time expiring. Guess how many points they give you when you almost put it in the end zone? They give you 0 points, right? Guess how much money you make on a sale that almost closes? $0. The sales fairy doesn't fly down and says, well, you tried really good, so here's $10. It doesn't happen that way. Okay? You either get them or you don't. It's binary. So many people that you were this close to truly helping, you let slip through your fingers at the last minute. And why do you think this happens? What are some reasons others, not you, that are in your space that are almost exactly like you, what are some of the reasons that this happens? Pushing, right? He said unclearly, not pushing, okay? Who here feels uncomfortable sometimes pushing people? Yeah? Go ahead. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. That is a normal response, okay? If you don't feel uncomfortable pushing people, we have a classic definition for you. It's called psychopath, right? If you say, I don't feel any discomfort at all pushing somebody, we call you fucking crazy, all right? It is a normal response to feel uncomfortable pushing something on someone that is resistant towards it. That's supposed to happen. But just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. Which one feels more uncomfortable to you? Letting somebody down or pushing? What would be worse? Pushing somebody a little too far and making them upset at you, or not pushing them far enough and then having their life get worse and worse and worse? Wouldn't you rather risk pushing a little too far than not pushing far enough? I would. Because if they walk out that door and you can never impact their life again, what influence can you have over them? How much can you help them? You can't. So I would rather risk a little bit more to help a lot more than not risk enough and not help at all. Does this make sense? So people are afraid to push. I'll give you a little close. And I've used this close so many times. You say to somebody in this uncomfortable situation, you say, hey, listen, what I'm about to do next, I would like your permission because it might feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to push aggressively, and I'm going to push very hard to get you to join. And I'm going to apply a lot of pressure to get you to join. Here's why I'm going to apply the pressure, because I feel like there is nothing better for you and your child right now than this. So would it be okay, because I'm so passionate in what I believe in and so sure that this is going to help you, that if I push gently and with kindness, but push nonetheless, to make sure that we can make the best decision? Is that okay? Now, the words don't exactly matter. What matters is the technique. If you get permission to push, what do you think happens? I've made many, many millions of dollars this way. This is how I started in this business, because I was very uncomfortable selling. So when I used to get on sales presentations, whether they were one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-many, and I would start the presentation out something along these lines. So I have 2 agendas here today. Agenda number 1 is to teach you X, Y, and Z. Agenda number 2 is to sell you something. Just flat out tell my audience. And I'd say, here's the deal. If I don't accomplish my first agenda to truly teach you X, Y, Z to your heart's content, then please do not buy what I sell at the end of our presentation together. However, on the slim miracle of a chance that I may actually be able to finally teach you how to do X, Y, and Z to your heart's content, then you should feel obligated to buy what I will sell to you at the end of the presentation here today. And then I say the most important part of that close. I like that you laughed at that. That's good. Yeah, you're feeling something different. You're like, this is how, the best insight you ever get is through laughter, by the way. If you can laugh at your problems, you now have power over your problems, okay? So I say that, my 2 agendas close. And then I go into the final punchline. I say, Do we have a deal? Now, what do you think the compliance rate on that is? How many people as a percentage say yes to that? Almost 100%, 99%. There's always some asshole somewhere, right? The good news is there's only about 10 of them in the world. They just move around a lot. So when they agree to be sold to, now it's no longer a problem. Do you feel that? If you can get them to agree to it, then you can do anything. So if you say to them at the very beginning when you sit down, you can say, hey, listen, I'm going to walk you through this program. Now, I have to apologize in advance. I am very passionate about what I do. It's my life's work, and we've saved so many lives this way, and we've impacted the community so much, so forgive me. You ever heard the saying that how you do anything is how you do everything? How long would you be willing to sit with somebody that you knew should sign up for your program? If they sat there and they kept talking to you, how long would you talk to them for? If they were a qualified lead and you said, I know if I say the right combination of words, this person will say yes. How long would you hang in with somebody? As long as it takes. Hours if it takes, right? Now, on a micro level, this doesn't make any sense because that doesn't scale. It's counterproductive. You could make more money driving Uber than if every sales that you close was 8 hours long, right? Here's why it matters, though, on a macro level. On a macro level is the attitude that it creates for you. Once you know that you're willing to go the extra mile on the individual basis, how you do that is how you're going to do everything in your marketing. You're going to show up with more intentionality. When you sit down and talk to enough people for a long period of time, you discover every objection known to man. And then when you have the insight, oh, this is why this person doesn't buy, then you can apply that in your marketing on a global level. You can reach everybody with this. This becomes the content that you create and you push out on social media. This becomes the hooks for the ads that you run. This becomes just completely how your business now starts to operate because you understand at the deepest level why people make decisions to buy from you or don't buy from you. It's the best investment that you can make because on the micro level, you start to show that transference of feeling. And then once you do that on a micro level, it gives you enough insight to do it on the macro level, to have it show up everywhere in your business. You will attract the best talent because people want to work with people that are truly committed. So you will get the best people to work for you. You will attract the best customers because the customers will have a great experience with you because of that attitude and they will tell their friends. But it starts on the one-to-one level because you don't just run a business. You serve people. The business is the macro. The people are what matter. They're the soul of the business, is the souls that you can connect with. What then are some of the challenges that you've encountered when you've had people walk in ready to sign up and then they don't sign up? Like what are some really objections that we could just get at the root at and see if we could just completely smash to oblivion so we can, next time you get one of these, you laugh at it and say, oh, I know you. You're one of those cute little objections. Boom! Price. I knew it was going to be number one. Here's how this works. Price, time, and then belief. Those are always the three levels of objections. So number one with price, okay? Now price can go we can go a million different ways with just price alone. Here's something just so you know that should help you when you deal with the price objection. 20% of a market spends 80% of its money. So you can ignore 4 out of 5 people in your local community because those combined don't spend as much as the 1 out of 5 who do. Your goal isn't to have the best price for everybody. Your goal is to have the best price for the people that are most serious to solve their problem. Those two are incompatible with each other. Because if you try to make it the most reasonable price for everybody, you have to cut corners. You have to sacrifice certain things that you would like to have but can't have because, 4/5 of people can't afford it. And so I tell 4/5 of people to get lost. Because I would rather create the best experience for the 1 out of 5 where price is not an issue to begin with. So the thing about price is, if your marketing is correct, price is not a real objection. It is what's called a smokescreen objection. Price is an indication that, oh shit, they're looking to buy, but they're a little scared. A price objection is a positive indication that you have a good lead on your hands. Because you know who doesn't care about the price? The person that ain't going to buy. They care nothing about price. There's 2 types of people that care about price. People that are most serious to buy and don't have the money, or it's going to be tough to get the money. And then the people that are using it as a substitute for a deeper objection. I'll give you an example because I sell very expensive stuff. So Adams is part of our Driven Mastermind, which is $35,000. Really good investment. By the way, the key differentiation between those who are committed to the customers and those who aren't is this. If you invest more than your customers invest in education, in training, then it's easier to sell to them. Does that make sense? You know what's really hard to sell to somebody? When you ask them for more than what you give yourself. You tell them to invest in themselves and you don't invest in yourself to that direct, 10x that proportion. So whenever I ask for somebody to give me money, I laugh because I've given 10x more for 10 times less than they have and been happy because I'm so sold on this concept of investing in yourself. Adam's part of this mastermind that we're in. It's $35,000. And I can't tell you how many times when somebody either joins or renews, they say, Jason, the price it's too much for me to join again. They're not telling me the truth 9 out of 10 times. And I know they're not telling me the truth because it would be much harder for them to admit, I ran my business into the ground. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing with business. I don't have enough money to pay payroll because it's too hard to admit the truth. So when most people say the price is too much, it is a smokescreen for a deeper objection. So if you hear a price objection, you got to address it to move past it, but it's 95% of the time, it's not the real objection. So you should never worry about the price. You should know how to handle it, but you should never worry about it. So A, you're active listening, not passive listening. So you've shown them immediately that you've heard what they've said, which is good, okay? Second thing you've done there is you've reframed it. If you learn nothing else from my speaking, learn the art of reframing, okay? A budget in their mind equals negative at this point. It's out of my budget. That's a negative frame. I turned it into a positive frame. Oh, you got a budget. That's nice. Now, by the way, do you think they really have a budget? No. It's bullshit. How do you know what to budget for? And then whatever they give you, you align your offer with that. They say, well, I budget for things because of these reasons and this reason. And then you say, okay, that's fantastic. I love that you do that because specifically when we priced our membership levels the way that we did the same thing. And then you close. Now, here's what's going to happen. You deal with a price objection. Most of the time, that will not close the sale for you. Just like if you were single and you met somebody and you gave them one compliment and they received it really well, that you don't immediately go sleep with them, right? There's more steps in between the two, okay? You bring it closer, but you don't close the deal 9 times out of 10 because price isn't the real objection. So how does this actually show up specifically in your market when you have an issue closing a sale? Can't match the schedule, right? Sounds like you're really busy. So that's the first thing we can say to them, right? So acknowledge every single time somebody says something with you, immediately acknowledge and agree with it. Sounds like your time is really busy. Yeah, it really is. So how do you know what to make time for and what not to make time for? Popular misconception in the marketplace today that nobody watches webinars anymore. Nobody comes to webinars anymore. And I got $250 million worth of reasoning why they do. But people believe what people believe, okay? So the issue with this is, I was in a seminar once, and a guy says, nobody comes to webinars anymore. And I said, okay, let me understand this. You flew halfway across the country. That's a long flight. To spend so far 8 hours yesterday in a room and 4 hours today in a room. And then you got a whole nother 8 hours tomorrow, and you're going to fly home. Yeah, you're right. Nobody ever pays attention to things that are important to them. Got it, right? So I was like, people will tell you they don't have the time after spending an hour and a half with you, having a conversation with you. People will tell you they don't have the time after emailing you now 17 times, yet they still haven't signed up yet, right? So if you can collapse the reality, this is the technical term that I call this, that will close more sales than anything. So he says, oh, great. Yeah, time is really important. You can't fit it into your schedule right now. How do you know what you can fit into your schedule? How do you make the difference between the two? Because you took the time to have a conversation with me here today. So that seems important. And then they're like, okay, go. So you address the objection, you agree with it, but you change the terms of the agreement. In a sales situation, the person in control wins. So you either control the conversation or you lose. And they're going to typically have all the power in this, the dynamic. Because ultimately, the easiest thing to do is nothing in the short term. The easiest thing to do is nothing. No energy, no money, no thinking, nothing. And I've used this close 1,000,000 times on my audience. I say, that's great in the short term, but what happens if we run that out for 10 years? and you continue to do nothing, then what happens? So in the short term, though, and this is legit, it's easiest for them to do not a thing at all, okay? I mean, if Pamela Anderson hit you up and was like, hey, man, Saturday morning, I'd like to go out with you. You wouldn't say, well, I'm at, the Relentless Summit, so maybe we could do Tuesday at 2 p.m. Would that work for you, right? You would tell us to fuck off. You would run out there. We wouldn't see your ass again, right? People make time for what is important to them. People make time for what is important to them. So if they're not going to make time for you, you haven't demonstrated you are important enough for them. That's a you problem. So you have to do better in your marketing to demonstrate that you're important to somebody. And then they will make time for you. Otherwise, you're a low priority. Here's another question you could ask. And by the way, I have no experience in the martial art business whatsoever, but because I understand the universalness of selling and how people make decisions, I can do this. So a question that I would ask somebody in this situation is, well, what are you doing for your children right now that's trying to help them lead a positive, more productive, more healthier lifestyle? Because all I have to do is take the fifth thing that they're doing on their list and replace that. I say, okay, so you do these 5 things, correct? And I would write them down. And I say, listen, you don't have to replace the first 4, but this 5th one, how much time do you devote to this? And they tell you how much time they devote to this. Great. Just put me in there, cross that off and write your name in there. Good, I'll take the 5th spot. Just give me the 5th spot. Because I'm confident enough that if I have the 5th spot, it will soon be the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and then the 1st. But you just got to give me a chance. Part of them are like, yeah. Part of them was like, damn, hold on, slow down. Right? I don't want to make a commitment. Because commitments are scary. Even the best commitments are. We can't let them off the hook. We can't let them off the hook. You lose more money and you hurt more people because you let them off the hook because there's a temporary feeling of uneasiness. And that is a tragedy. That is a tragedy of all tragedies. Good things must be sold. You know why a superior thing needs to be sold? Because if it's truly superior, it's done different than the ordinary. And if it's done different than the ordinary, people need to understand that difference. And until they understand the difference, they will just take the ordinary. Because they understand the ordinary. So it's not really a money objection 9 times out of 10. It's not really a time objection 9 times out of 10. It's a belief objection. Now, what do you think I mean by belief? If you had to guess at what a belief objection is, what would you say it could be? Bingo. Hell yeah, right? I don't believe you can actually do what you say. Now, they don't say that. I wish they would. I wish we could sit down and have a conversation and somebody says, this all sounds good. I just don't think you can do what you can do. Life would be much better if people were more forthright like that, but they're not because it's socially unacceptable to be brutally honest. They don't quite understand their own problem that well, so they can't communicate that problem to you. So the best thing you could ever do is understand their problems better than they understand their problems. And that's a close I use. I use that close all the time. I go, listen, when it comes to this, I've thought more about your problems than you've thought about your problems. And they're like, huh, what do you mean? I go, here's what's going on in your mind right now. And then I tell them what's going on in their mind right now. And they're like, oh my God. Yeah, they're like, you're like John Edward from Crossing Over and you could speak with the dead, right? Give them a TV show, you know? Because I know my audience that well, because I care that much. Remember, not just tell, but show. Don't tell them that you know them. Show them that you know them. And then you will get more of them. And they will spend more money with you. They will stay with you longer. And they will tell more people about you. They will open up more doors for you than you could ever open up on your own. But you have to understand them first. So the first level is they don't believe you enough. That's actually the easiest to deal with. Because your marketing should demonstrate that in advance of them ever talking to you. So you get this out there in advance by showing your value. So every time you have a win with somebody, document it and then show it. Every time you have an insight that you think could help somebody, regardless of whether they do business with you or not, show it in its ugliest form possible. The details can come later. The most important thing is showing up in the marketplace. You can't say you care and then be invisible. You can't say you care and then be invisible. So they say that I don't believe you, but that's usually not even the real objection, believe it or not. You get some of that, but that's easy to handle. You can say, I'm not sure you could deliver for me. Here's something you could say to them. How would you know if I could deliver for you? What would be required for you to say, yes, you can deliver for me? And then they will tell you. It's the craziest thing. They'll say, well, I would need to know X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. So if you knew X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, and A, B, C to your fullest belief, then you would say yes. See how we're always moving it forward. We're always moving it forward. We either get the sell or we move the ball forward. That's the attitude. Every question is an opportunity to either close or move the sale forward. That's how you have to interpret every single question. I do this sell. So I had this webinar one time. It did $9.8 million in 8 days, and it set the record because I wasn't even selling my product. I was selling somebody else's product. I got 50% of the sales. And the way I transitioned into the close in this offer is I said, basically, essentially, it says, if you knew that 6 months from now, I could sit you in front of a crystal ball and it said, in 6 months, you will be $50,000 richer. Would you give me $10,000 today if you knew 100% beyond any doubt that you would be $50,000 richer in the future? And I go, the answer is you would 100% give me the money today, except for one thing. You don't believe me. That's the only thing that would stop you. You think the testimonials I showed you are fake. You think they're made up. You think I lied to you. You think I doctored the result. You think I misrepresented and fabricated everything that I sold or showed you here today. They argue with you against their own problem. Well, no, it's not that bad. Okay, sure. You sure, right? So like when I'm teaching webinars to people to begin to get them to start, they're so afraid. I'm like, yeah, man, you could do this webinar. If it's really bad, a customer is going to show up at your house. They're going to grab you by the neck. They're going to drag you out in the street naked, and they're going to beat you in public saying what a shitty webinar presenter you are, right? And they're like, no, Jason, it's not that bad. And now they're arguing with me against their own problem. I like that, right? That's why when I sell, I say, this thing is so expensive. Oh, my God. You might have to donate a kidney in order to buy it, right? Then they see the price. They're like, well, the price isn't that bad. It's only $20,000. That's less than a kidney, I think, right? So I exaggerate their problem back to you. So I say that. But then I transition to the second half, which is where all the real objections are. I say, you don't believe me. I go, is it that? And then in this particular case, I said, they did it. All these people I showed you, but they is not you. Can you do it? And then I show them how I believe they can. I say, once you have these resources that I've created for you, once you have this software and this community behind you, then you will have the advantages that they had. But until now, you don't have those advantages. So yeah, you would be right to believe that you can't do it without the advantages that I've created for you to do it. And then I'll do a close like this, okay? I'll say, and if I have to pick you up, throw you over my shoulders, and drag you kicking and screaming across the finish line, I will do that for you. If I ask you to take one step, I will take 10 steps on your behalf. But you got to take the first step. 6.2% of them buy. And 93% don't buy. And 6.2% equals $9.8 million. Okay? Most people are still going to say no matter what you do, despite your best efforts, no matter how hard you try. So it's easy to look at the quantity of no's. Now, it's easier when you're local, way easier. It's easier when you're in person, way easier. I'm selling to people from like Zimbabwe. I don't know where the hell they're at, right? I'm selling to 1,000 people all at the same time. So your conversion rates will be much higher. But the reality is most of the people who should buy from you will still say no despite every possible thing that you can do in your willpower. And you have to accept that because we don't do this for the people that say no. We do this for the people that say yes. And if it takes 10 to say no to get to one yes, you just got to see the yes. And then the no's don't matter. And then the no's don't matter. But right now I will tell you, for a majority of you, you have a yes and you're not allowing it to get there. You're putting the food in the oven. It says set the timer for this, 50 minutes. You're checking it at 20 minutes. You're saying it's not done. I can't cook. You throw the thing out the door. That's what's happening, and it's a tragedy. And this is why I'm traveling all over the world to right this wrong and to reach at least a few of you who could get this and apply this and have this show up in your business. Is this good stuff? Okay? So how do you deal with somebody who has a limiting belief, who doesn't believe that they can do that? How do you break that limiting belief? That's where all the money is made that I've ever had, okay? So when I sell products online, sometimes I sell to people who've bought 19, 25, 32, 46 other products that promised the same thing and failed to deliver. So it is clinically insane for that person to expect the 47th time they buy something to get a different result. It's very logical. I do a thing 46 times and I lose. Of course I'm going to lose on the 47th time. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Yeah. So when you say, why are they throwing us an objection? I mean, that's the most logical conclusion they can have, that they're going to fail again. I tried this for my child. I tried this for myself. I tried this in a variety of different ways and I failed every single time. So it makes sense that they would have that objection, but does that serve them? Does that serve them? No. Because by the way, if you quit at 46, guess what the rate of failure is? 100%. So even if the 47th time represents a 1% opportunity for this time to be different, isn't that worth trying? If the difference is between 1% and 0%, I'd rather have a 1% chance than a 0% chance. So even if your thing can't deliver for whatever reason, at least you're trying to get the result. The alternative is not trying anymore. So you can't let them get away with, I've failed so many times in the past, why would this time be different? It might not be different, but what if it was? And I'll tell you what won't be different, doing nothing. That will be the same thing. You will have the problem, and the problem will actually get worse and worse and worse the longer you allow it to occur. So how can you deal with this? I'll give you one. If somebody says, I've tried so many things in before and they didn't work, you say, great. You're showing to me that you're willing to continue to work through this to get the result that you want. That is an admirable quality. So what do we do there? Have you noticed the pattern? Yeah, reframed it. We took what they thought was an objection or an issue, we agreed with it, but then we changed the terms of what we were agreeing to, okay? Then I might say something like this, and I use many closes, but this is one of them. I say you had a journey of 1,000 steps, and you are on step 999. Don't you need those steps before you get to the 1,000th step? So every single decision that you've made in the past, regardless of the outcome of it, was a step closer to the result that you wanted. Do you agree with that? And they say almost always, yes. So we can't get you to the success you want without having those 47 other steps that occurred before it. Everything has brought you one step closer to success, and I'm here today to get you across the finish line. You close like that? Not yet. Will you close like that? I sure hope so. Not for my sake, because guess how much of a commission I get for your closing? Okay, it makes me no money. Yeah. Here's how I make money today. You follow me on Instagram, and then that boosts me up on the algorithm. Maybe you buy my book for a whopping $20, of which I get $3 for. But yeah, follow me, Jason Flatlett at Instagram. Oh, I make money. I fly halfway across the world. I get paid by Adam, which is nice, right? But not enough. Honestly, not enough, but nice, right? I mean, nothing is enough to take you away from your family. But you do this for your family, so when you come back to them, right? You do this because you care. This is showing how you care, not just telling how you care. But yeah, I come here today to reach out and impact you, so then when I impact you, you have something amazing happen in your life, and then you tell people about me. That's the agenda that I have here today, but it's the same thing at a local level. You're going to reach people who are in the disease of indecision. That's what most of your audience faces, most of your prospects face, most of the people that you can help. They have the disease of indecision because people have trouble making a decision. Because with a decision becomes what? Accountability. With a decision says what? I'm going to become more than who I am. And that's really hard. So we have to have compassion and empathy with that, right? Now you should structure it in such a way where it makes it easier for them to not make the same mistakes that they used to make, right? So Adam has a program that he has as a mastermind where he's developed things for you so you don't have to develop them on yourself. So you can start at the 50-yard line instead of at the end zone. So you can have things developed that you can use. So when he's selling you his mastermind, that is a valuable thing for you because he's doing 90% of the work and then you got to finish it off. You should do the same for your audience. So if there are challenges and friction points that get in the way, how can you minimize those? How can you make their objections sound silly when they say them out loud? Because you say, oh, really? We have a thing for that. Oh, really? That's an issue for you? You're exactly who we had in mind when we created this. So what are the deliverables? What are the experiences that you have? How do you have it so when they meet with a challenge, they can meet that challenge with a lot of, yeah, I got you. What do you do to help them understand that what you give for them will allow them to deal with those challenges? Anybody? What do you do? Somebody tell me what you do to help get somebody inspired to deal with the challenge that they're going to face. Take some deep breaths, right? So you're gonna say, part of what we do in our program is we have people breathe in a certain way. And when they breathe in a certain way, they feel different. And if they feel different, they can get a different result. When you change somebody's physiology, you change who they are and what they can do. You ever seen Superman slump over like this before he saves Lois Lane? No, he's like this, right? We get people in that state of mind. And if we can get people in that state physiologically, they can do things that they can't do before. And that's what we're going to help you do. So when challenges come up and when you're working through this is how we're going to empower you to deal with those challenges. How does that sound to you? You feel it? Okay? That's me on a 7-day tour across the country with no slides, no prep, just understanding how people make decisions. You can do 1,000,000 times better than I did if you sit down and start scripting some of these out. You say, I get this question all the time. How am I answering it right now? Write that down. Based on what I heard that Jason discussed with me today, how could I answer it differently? Write it down. Write it down. I'm assuming the programs that you have in your schools are, you show up and say, let's just figure it out along the way. There's probably a lot of design in there, isn't there? There's probably a lot of purpose behind what you do. And then you treat sales differently. And you don't take that same attitude and put it into sales. So start scripting out these answers. Start knowing how to say these. So the next time I run up to you and say, it costs too much, you could say, how much is too much? And then you can have a conversation. My name is Jason Flatland. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve you here today. I appreciate each and every one of you.